Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez
and me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day. We are back. We apologize, but not really. Back with Jen for more tragedy. Yes, we had no intention of breaking this into two parts, but we're breaking it into two parts, and we're going to pick up where we left off. So let's kind of dive right in. Like we literally left off. You're leaving the hospital, and the doc's like, "Yo, you're going to die," and you're basically like, "No, I'm not."
Yep. Best sentence of my life is, "Why can't I be in the 8%?" So we get home, and I essentially am a helpless little baby bird. I can't walk because one of my legs is partially paralyzed. I have an incision from here to here with 32 staples. My digestive tract has been sewn together in multiple places, and I can barely eat at this point. So,
sorry, I don't want to get too gross or weird, but like, so digestive tract, because I do know people that have been through, not this, but like significant trauma and like abdominal trauma.
Right.
And like, do you still have, at this point, do you still have full intestinal tract intact?
Well, because this is a part two, I'll give a little recall of what got taken out of me.
Right.
So I lost uterus, ovaries, cervix, appendix, ileocecal valve, which connects your small to large intestine.
Right.
The main part of my large intestine got to stay in me,
but
then they took out the end of the large intestine, which is the sigmoid colon, where it like hooks around, stretched it down, re-sewed it to my rectum.
Okay.
So I have like non-functional pooping muscles, essentially.
Okay.
So we can get into like, had to learn how to poop again.
Right.
And then they took out like a lot of like blood vessels and omentum, which is like a sheath that kind of hangs down and holds everything together. And then
I took AMP 1 and 2, everybody.
Okay.
I'm loosely hanging on to what's happening in this conversation.
Yeah. And and a third of my bladder. So there was also cancer latched to the outside of my bladder. So they lobbed off about a third of it and closed that and made it a bit smaller.
Okay.
So now I pee like a pregnant person because I just have a tinier bladder.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. So I come home, huge wound. My femoral nerve got smushed in surgery. So essentially the nerve, it didn't fully die, but it wasn't able to send signals from my leg to my brain.
Okay.
So that's why when I woke up and I was like, I can't wiggle my toes, I can't do anything with my leg. My whole muscle tone, like I had a really strong quad and hamstrings, was just like jello. I was like, oh my gosh, my leg has no muscle tone. And then I could like kind of like limp around with a high tiered walker and drag like my limp leg behind me. And then I was using like my good strong leg and my two arms to kind of like 3-limb propel myself forward.
Okay.
But because my abdominal muscles were cut open, I can't even sit up without like an assisted bed mechanism. So I'm now at home. We didn't have a hospital bed for me the first couple days. So I got put on a reclining couch, but I can't physically get off a couch because I don't have the abdominal capacity to even sit up.
Yeah, it's just like the old, I did a bunch of GHDs and I just like roll over and get out. But even that's like dangerous now. I can't even do that.
No, I literally can't. Like I am completely 1000% helpless. So between my mom and my husband, they took 24-hour rotating shifts because someone had to be with me at all times to like very gently sit me up. Someone had to like physically support my rib cage and like walk me to a bathroom to be like, I'm going to place you on a toilet, and then I'm going to stand right here, and then I'm going to like have to physically stand. Like it's so humbling to have every capacity that you ever took for granted completely wiped away. And so now I'm just like left to my own devices to go figure out what I'm going to do now.
So what's that recovery start to look like?
The first month, you sleep a lot. I was probably sleeping 14 hours a day, and you're just riding waves of pain. I mean, I have a pretty good pain threshold, like training at a high level, and the only way I can describe it is it's about like 1,000 out of 10 on the pain scale. And I remember my mindset, even in the hospital in that first week at home, was like, you can do another minute, and you survive it minute by minute. So you just ride the most intense waves of pain, and then the relief from pain is like, maybe I can go to sleep, and if I'm sleeping, hopefully I won't feel that. And then you just wake up, and it felt like...
So there's no nerve block, or I'm sure you have to be on some sort of opioids.
I was at the time, but I was like so scared to get addicted that I probably under-medicated, which was problematic. But I was on some like hardcore opioids to like help with that. But like the wound hurts, and then my digestive tract, maybe this is a little TMI, but like, hey, we're going to go there, is as food would cross where my intestines got sewn together, it felt like raw battery acid sewage. So like super embarrassing.
It's kind of an open wound.
It
just
is.
internally,
It is.
right? So you
And
have like fecal matter crossing essentially
a
like
raw wound.
a raw wound. Yeah.
And I couldn't really hold food in at the time. So I'd eat, and then 15 minutes later, I would scream. Like my poor husband would be like, I'd be in the washroom, I'd be like, ah, like literally raw sewage battery acid. And then like the nicest compliment I got a month in, he's like, well, you scream less when you're like crapping, so that's great.
Yeah. Crapping doesn't make you cry anymore.
No, exactly. So it was terrible. Like it
And
was
then
truly terrible.
This is like the cascading effect of all these I'm thinking about, just like, so most people, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but like typically opioids are going to cause constipation.
Well, that happened too. So it went between. So I like got a squatty potty, and then like, again, I hope this isn't TMI for the listeners, but like I had to get like rubber gloves because I couldn't get things out. And the doctor's like, you're just going to have to start like scooping it out. And, like I'm literally going to like pelvic physio to heal all the abdominal wounds. And because I lost the rectum part where like those strong muscles know how to do things, I have to actually like retrain things on the inside to compensate and take over. Like wild when I think back how much my body didn't function at that time.
That's really painful to think about. So moving on from poop, so how
I'm a dietitian. I talk about this with my clients. Whatever.
Poop, poop it's a thing.
We all poop, right?
Yeah. So how long does this process take?
So yeah, the first.
Like how long are you kind of like down and out?
Oh God, probably the first 2 months. I am just incapacitated, like completely helpless. By the first 30 days, what I started to do, because all I could really do was sleep and like get assisted to the bathroom and then assisted back to a hospital bed. People would like bring us food to like feed my poor husband, and then he would make like the softest foods to help me, scrambled eggs and, things that have like high protein that I can get down.
So it sounds like the gym set some sort of like, what do they call it? Like meal train for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what they did. Like they pulled us through.
This is where I think I want to highlight like CrossFit affiliates specifically. Like Jess and I went through this. We were talking about this a little bit whenever we were talking about it, I forget. But the way they rally around people. Like I was just talking to Chase Ingram, who's the South Central. I can't remember what the regions are, but he's just recently sold his affiliate, CrossFit Big D. He's one of the affiliate reps for the U.S. He's CrossFit Media, just good dude. And he was talking to me about how there was an affiliate down in Houston, Dallas. I don't know. Somebody just got recently decimated by a tornado, just like out of the blue, wiped the whole facility out. Right. And then how basically the community's like swooping in and they're like trying to get them back up and running. And I think that's where you don't see that anywhere else. Like there's no other.
You're not getting that at Orange Fear Fitness.
There's no other fitness industry where the community will like help. Like COVID's a perfect example. Right. Where people are like, I'll still pay.
Yeah.
Like as long as whatever keeps you here, so I can come back to this thing whenever this is over.
Right.
That I think that can't be overstated enough. And this is part of the mission behind what we do is meaning best hour, which is because the community is so supportive, like fundamentally we have to do a better job and return that favor. It can't just be like, hey, CrossFit's effective. It has to go further and deeper than that. And so we owe them a debt of gratitude. It's a transaction, obviously, but it's more than a transaction.
It's more than a transaction.
And I know people want to be like, it's a transaction. I'm like, it's not. Like, I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
It's not. It's different, and it's okay to say it's different. That doesn't mean that CrossFit affiliates are special. Right, you're still susceptible to all of the market variables that exist, and it will still.
There's no competition.
It'll still eat you alive, right? But that is an aspect. It is a variable that we have access to that is a massive advantage, and I don't think it could be overstated. And I think we all take it for granted.
Well, I'll give you a couple examples of what my affiliate and my members, my family, essentially they were my family, pulled me through. So Dave had to be, at the gym still trying to run things, but I can't drive a car because my dominant leg, my right leg was the one that got partly paralyzed. So members would take turns picking me up at the house, gingerly putting me in their car. I had to like pad my abdominal cavity with like blankets with the seatbelt because that was so excruciating.
Oh, yeah.
And then I just started to CrossFit to recover. But was I doing group classes? Of course not. So day one. So
butterfly kipping, pull-ups, heavy deadlifts?
No, gone.
Okay.
So my first day back, I was like, I'm going to do one loop around the gym with my walker. So I have a gym dog, like our gym dog Carly, and my gym, like I kid you not, cheered me on.
It's great.
Like I was finishing a workout. And I got like my walker and I'm going around the gym. I was exhausted at the end of the lap. I did like a little half lap and I sat down and I was like, I'm so proud of myself. That is day one of relearning how to walk.
I also firmly believe that stuff like that is how people survive really tragic stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's like hocus pocus, right? But I do think it is a thing. I think there's things inside of human culture that cannot be explained, and I believe that is one of them, which is just like community and support and
love,
right? Like however
love.
you want to think about it. Speaking of which, we'll talk about Care Bears in a minute. But I think that's really, really cool, and you just don't see that anywhere else.
Yeah. And so every day, little by little, I went to CrossFit. Like that's where my physio, that's where my learn to walk happened. And so I got a little more endurance and I could do like a second lap. Now,
do you have a physical therapist or an occupational therapist?
I was working with a pelvic physiotherapist to like, because there was so much trauma that happened to my abdominal cavity.
And are they in the know on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when I was like, not that I'm waiting for their permission, but they're like, okay, you're like medically safe enough to do that, but like don't overexert yourself. But then, like I had members donate everything. So at the time when I could like progress to like walking sticks from a walker, a member's like, I got walking sticks here. So then I like practice walking around the gym with like 2 sticks to support me. And then someone's like, I'm an OT. I have a whole bunch of assistive devices. Do you need a cane? Like, hey, we'll lend you a cane, no cost. So then I'm like eventually walking with a cane. Like they just pulled through. And then even in terms, like I used to do like pistols. Those were my favorite regionals movement. So I was like, boop, boop, boop. And so as I was like practicing, I would like legit practice like scaled pistols, but on a high bench and and again, like had a member there, like being my spotter. And what my community did is they did this incredible fundraiser to buy us essentially like an air assault, runner, because it was like middle of winter in Canada, so I cannot walk outside on the ice, but they're like, we can keep you safe. And as I was starting to learn how to walk independently, they're like, we're gonna get that for you. Like,
that's awesome.
And so we did this incredible fundraiser. My whole community came. All the other CrossFit gyms in the city also came, like competitors, but they're like, no, we are going to support you.
That's cool.
And they just did this like really awesome rally and fundraiser, and it was the most uplifting CrossFit experience of my life. I think I even have some footage of like, there's like double unders and I have my cane and I'm just like, okay, double under, like I can do that.
And this is the part where we kind of breach into insanity, where it's just like maybe double unders aren't necessary, but I think
was
it's
like,
cool.
I can do it. I can go on my toe and use a cane.
I'm saying that in jest, but it's just like, this is where like, all right, you've gone too far. But not really, right? This is where I think that there's a little bit of a double-edged sword, which is like, if you weren't previously a CrossFitter, if you weren't in this environment, you probably wouldn't be pushing the threshold for recovery, which is okay as long as we're not doing stupid things.
I wasn't doing damage. I was sleeping a lot, eating really well, listening to my body. And I used hope as a really important strategy to get better. So I thought about it just like CrossFit. It's like, if I can't do a muscle up, work backwards. What's the first step? How do I get that strict strength? How do I then start to get whatever? So I broke down walking into mini goals. And then I had like the high ticket thing where I was like, the doctor's like, it's going to take you probably even 6 months to walk independently. And I was like, you know what?
I'll see your 6 and I'll raise you 4.
I got there in 3, so I was really happy. And then I was like, I'm actually going to go to Tofino, British Columbia this summer. And at about 6 months, I want to be on a surfboard, like literally riding waves, ripping around, and just being back to being fit. And then I was like, I really want to like climb a mountain. My husband and I go on these like crazy off the grid like hiking trips. So we went and climbed the Alps that summer. So like 7 months later, I'm surfing. I taught myself how to ride a motorcycle, went and like hiked the Alps in Switzerland and France and Italy. And I'm just was like, whether I'm dying or not, I'm going to live. And the exercise I did the night before my surgery is something I pulled from my private practice that I do with my own clients. And you've probably heard of this exercise. It's called like fill your cup. But long story short, what it is like, if I bump your mug here, what's going to come out? Well, if you put coffee in there this morning, coffee's going to come out. If this is like ice water and I jostle you, ice water is going to come out. So as we were kind of chatting off camera, I don't like the victim mentality. I don't like people that whine and complain. I like people that are...
Question, were you like that before
Yes.
you met Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark England. If you guys don't know about the victim mentality, you should look into it. But okay.
Yeah, because I have too many clients that are, woe is me, oh, my circumstances. And so I'm not going to enable that behavior, but I'm going to teach you skills to break that behavior. And if you want a better life, a better outcome, we got to get back into your mindset. So I had been doing that mindset coaching for years. And one of the exercises I use is called Fill Your Cup. And so what I actually did is I drew a like physical metaphorical cup. And then I thought about the words I needed to be to just bravely get through this diagnosis. Because I was the night before surgery. I'm like, I don't know what they're going to find. It actually was like worse than I even thought. And so I think the words I put in were things like brave, hardworking, positive, courageous, love, like hope. Like I was like, what words do I need to always keep in the forefront of my brain? And no matter what the doctor says at an appointment, no matter how my body is physically responding, can I be brave? Can I be hardworking? Can I be positive? Can I lead with love? And then I just was like, there's a good chance I'm going to die. But even if I die this year and I lived my remaining days, months, whatever it's going to be, instilling these values, I'm really proud of myself. Like,
I'm always curious. There's obviously, I don't want to say there's two types of people, but there's in those types of scenarios, I find that there's two types of people. There's the people that kind of just, all right, that's kind of it. And then there's the other people that are like, no, I'm not dying today.
Right? Strong people are harder to kill.
Right. But there's a difference between like, somebody's physically strong and have a physical prowess versus psychologically.
Yeah.
That they're just rock solid. So like I know a handful of people, hopefully that one day I'll have a couple of them on the show, but who for sure should be dead.
Yeah.
Like if you hear the story, like there's a 0% chance that person survived that incident. I'm like, nope. I'm like, here they are, right here, standing here in in real time. Yeah. And that's just such a fascinating thing to me. It's just like, where does that resilience come from? And is it innate? Is it genetic? Is it a learned skill?
It was very trained in me. Like I had read so many books on resilience, mental strength, practicing that skill. Even as a counselor, as a dietitian, sitting across the table and teaching my clients the skills of being better at solving their own problems and like battling through hardships to come out victorious. I was like, my whole life, I didn't realize I've been preparing for this moment. As an athlete, as a CrossFitter, as a coach, I am so prepared to handle whatever's about to come. And so I just was like, I have to take it day by day. You can't get too far ahead of yourself. And then I'm going to make the best decision in the moment that I think moves me towards my goals. So I went really nerdy and really intuitively. So I was like, I'm a scientist. Like I'm a high-level dietitian. I have a master's degree. I understand research. So one of the first things I did is I went into PubMed and I found any article I could on the type of ovarian cancer I had, and I read it. And then, public tip, you can reach out to the researchers who write this stuff. So I started contacting the key authors of these like scientific papers. And what I started to do was put together really nice emails and said, here's a quick background. I would love to pay you for your time as a consultant. Can I call you and kind of download your brain as quickly as I can so you can teach me? Because again, if you understand the science, there's always like a 5 to 8 year to 10 year delay of what's in the public medical system to what's happening at the research level. So I was like, can I get a 10-year head start on where cancer research is? I want to go to the source where the research is happening.
That's cool.
And then all these cancer researchers were like, oh my God, Jen, no, you're not going to pay us to, they were just like, I can't believe you read my paper. I'm so honored. And then in our home city.
Tip, if you want free work, I'm like, you lead with I'm dying. And then they're like, all right, we'll comp this one.
Exactly.
We'll comp this one.
Exactly. Because it's not something they traditionally do, right? So in my home city, which is about 400,000 people, we have like a big medical center. We've got a big research university. One of the key researchers in ovarian cancer actually happened to live in my city. So he invited me into his lab, and then I hung out with him for 4 hours and like learned as much as I possibly could about my type of ovarian cancer. And then, as you maybe know, because I like invited myself over to your house, I just like nicely invite myself into situations.
Yeah, so Jen has been living with us for the past 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like doing the dishes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
But I asked him, I was like, can I come into your university fourth year advanced clinical cancer class? And he's like, no one's ever asked to do that. But like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
So I like legit joined his university advanced class.
So not with regard to like cancer, but I think one of the things to extract from that part of the story is I don't think people do this enough, meaning like they just don't reach out and they're like, yo, will you help me?
Right.
And because I think they would be shocked how many people would just say yes. They're like, absolutely, whatever you want. Like people ask me all the time, like, and there's times when like they might not be capable of doing that.
Right.
But I don't think I've ever had a hard no.
Right.
They're like, I don't want to.
Right.
They're like, that's not feasible.
Right.
For whatever reason.
Right.
Or not now.
Right. Or I'll connect you with someone. I'm too busy, but I know someone that.
Or like, hey, let's talk about something later. But
Right.
I can't think of any scenario where I was trying to get access to somebody who had information that I was trying to learn or master something like that. Who was just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of thing number one that I did is I'm like, I'm going to lean into my strengths, which is I'm an academic. I know how to find like credible information. And then I want to go talk to people who are smarter than me. The second thing I did is this was more intuitive. And I also use this a lot in my coaching is I use the phrase success leaves clues. So if you want to get to a place, find people who have been successful and done that. So I actually went into the cancer world of like people that had stage 3 and stage 4 terminal diagnoses. And I was like, where are those examples of people who beat it? And one of the most important books I read, there was 2 of them. One was called Radical Remission.
Okay.
The author's Kelly Turner. So she's a PhD who specifically studied radical remission. People who were given a life sentence or death sentence that go home and get your affairs in order, like I was told. And then she interviewed and found people all around the world whose cancer went into remission. And then what she scientifically did is she studied the pattern of those people versus the people that didn't make it. There's some really cool themes, right? Nutrition, certain supplements, nature, fresh air, sunlight.
I was going to say it had to be like
the terpenes in trees.
Environment.
Laughter and humor is really important.
The other the 2 that are like abstract is like environment and like culture.
Right.
Like literally the people you interact with.
And the belief, also the hope, the belief, like
you have to think you're going to make it.
The will to fight for your life. And so I read that book probably 5 times in a row. Like I just finished it and then I started it again. And then there was another book I read that's called The Biology of Belief. And it actually looks at science is trying to understand this whole energetic connection. And whatever your spiritual beliefs are, it's looking at how when your brain really clicks in, how your hormones, your endocrinology, like how your body systems will respond to how your brain is thinking. And so one of the things I would do every day is I would envision my white blood cells as my little Navy SEALs, because those are our first line of cancer killing. Their job is to kill any foreign invader. And I'd be like, okay, little guys, go, like, you got this. And I would sit there. I actually would
Mission profile, boys.
would go on YouTube to try to find video examples of white blood cells killing cancer. And I would get that YouTube video in my brain. And then I would sit there and be like, okay, it's lunchtime, Navy SEALs. What is your cafeteria lady putting on your lunch tray?
Right.
And so every time I ate, I thought about feeding my white blood cells.
You're kind of like
I'm
kooky,
a weirdo.
You're kind of like a kooky kindergarten teacher, Nate.
know.
We're just like, all right, everybody, we're not going to die today, and here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, but
right?
I legit.
But that's what it sounds
this
like.
This is the honest story. As I thought about how.
I imagine you sitting in front of a bunch of toddlers, like, here's how we're going to defeat cancer, everybody.
So I went into PubMed and I found a really cool list of the highest chemo-preventative vegetables. So it is your cruciferous, your broccoli, your
What's cruciferous?
They're the really crunchy, sometimes stinky vegetables. So it's Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower.
Got
you
it.
get into
kale,
it's a family of vegetables.
Got it.
Yeah, so they, we get into onions, mushrooms. So there's a G bombs list, which is greens, B, berries, O would be onions, M is mushrooms.
Were nightshades in there?
No, not particularly, but just.
I would imagine they wouldn't be, just because they're kind of
it can be
inflammatory.
problematic, for some people.
Okay.
So I every day was one of the things I'm going to do is I'm just going to eat a large amount of vegetables that have this scientific backing.
Right.
And then cool things started to happen. So I believe that the universe leaves you little breadcrumbs if your eyes and ears are open. So when my gym did this fundraiser to help me get the treadmill, this really weird sequence of things happened. This guy in Michigan, so we live in London, Ontario, somehow this got on the news. Like the TV, I didn't know that camera crews were going to come to this event. Like I guess my Western varsity rowing team contacted the news.
Oh, okay.
And then the news came and covered our CrossFit box doing this, and it got released. And then this guy in Michigan somehow was like watching this on the news, and his wife had ovarian cancer, and she went into radical remission. And so he saw on our background wall, it said like CrossFit London. So he just looked up our gym's phone number, didn't know it. My husband was the owner, calls the gym. It was like this gruff old man, and he's like,
"Who's the guy yakking at your door? Just mind your own business, will you?"
"Listen, I just got to tell you something. Are you connected to the girl that has ovarian cancer?" And he's like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he's like, "My wife also had ovarian cancer, and you need to tell her she needs to take ginger supplements. Got it? Like, pass on the message. Ginger supplements." And then he hangs up the phone. What? Like, what?
Like this just random guy.
So weird.
You're like, just like this weird message from God. Be like,
Right.
He just sent this old grufty man. Be like, listen,
That was
call
exactly
them,
what
tell them they
happened.
need ginger. It'll fix everything.
Right. So, and then I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting tip." So I like go into the research, and I was like, "Oh, damn!"
I would love to have seen like just been a fly on the wall as your
Yeah.
husband's receiving this phone
Yes.
call, and he hangs up. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, he's like, "So this guy in Michigan just saw you on the news." And
You're like,
told
he
me
just walks in. You're like,
I'm
"Why do you have
passing
so
on the
much
message."
ginger?" You're like,
Yeah.
apparently it's gonna save your life.
So I like go and start researching it. I'm like, "Oh, legit. Like there is a strong connection between ginger consumption and ginger kills ovarian cancer cells. Cool. I'm going to start pumping ginger into me." So I started taking in lots of ginger. And like
Is
even,
that could that be like prophylactically as well?
yeah, I think so, potentially. There's just a strong correlation that the more ginger you
I mean, it's worth a
consume-
shot. Like,
Yeah, like nature has made things for our body that protect us. And just all these crazy signs would come together. And so the other thing I started to do, so I'm like scientifically learning about it, and then I would sit in quiet and I would go mostly into the woods as I learned eventually how to walk, because the nature is like my happy place. And I'd go sit by a river and I would just think about what my intuition said I needed. And then what I made is this long list called Healing from Cancer. So I pinned it beside my bed, and on this list, it says things. I started it with 3 words, like love, joy, and happiness. I need to start every day in the headspace of putting out love, joy, and happiness. Then
you do that.
Thank you.
When our first call, this is not a joke, Nate, we got on our first call, and then I immediately got off with, and I think I was on a email or something with Mark, and I was like, I think she might be the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life, and I was like, it might be fake.
No, it's really not.
No, it's definitely real. But I was like, it was overly nice, and I was like,
Aw.
I feel like a bad person talking to her. I was like, she's so nice.
But
yeah.
that's the intention.
Yeah.
That's what's in my cup is love, joy, and happiness. And then it was like really high quality whole foods with the emphasis on the
Right.
veggies I kind of mentioned. It was get out in nature. It was no alarm clocks. Wake up when my body's ready, well rested. Be in a clean, minimalistic, uncluttered environment.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of work on releasing toxicity, toxic people, toxic news, toxic
You're going through like a
information
Brene
sources.
Brown.
Totally. And I was like, get out in nature, travel a lot, have adventure. I said, have tons of courage. And then the last 2 things I wrote on my list is have a sense of safety and belief that I'll be okay. And then the very last point was be at peace with dying. Because we're
Ooh.
all going to die. We truly are. And so if I'm the best person I can be and I'm adding value to the world, whether I got the 6 months or the 2 years, or I wanted to grow old, I still want to grow old, of course, with my husband, be at peace with dying and know that I lived a good life. And I just looked at that list every single day.
Did you ever actually get there?
Yeah.
Like,
Here I am. Like I am at peace. Like we could get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? So you never know, never take anything for granted. Like I lost my ability to walk. Every day I'm like, yes, I can walk again. Every morning I wake up and the first thought in my brain is I get another day. Like my eyes are twinkling because I'm so excited and happy that I get another day.
There's people that say that, and you're like, I don't know, but like,
No, but like-
I genuinely believe that.
Like
when you say
today
it.
we get to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then can I get into like the really weird stuff now? So like
How weird are we gonna get?
a little like quite weird.
Okay.
So So one of the things I started to do is I was like, this is too tiring to kind of tell people privately. So I was like, I am just going to have to be open and give this to the world. Because I was actually a little bit embarrassed when I first got diagnosed to be like, oh my gosh, I am this very healthy person. People are going to think I'm a fraud. Like, they must think I make really bad food choices, but I present one thing.
That's a stretch, but yeah, I can see why you would think that.
Like, I'm not actually as healthy as I present myself to be. But like, who I am online is who I am privately. And I was a little bit embarrassed to be like, oh shoot, I have this really bad cancer and it's really advanced. But then I just was like, let that go, because who does that serve to think like that? So let that go.
It's also just a stupid, illogical, childish thought. We're like that's people who want to see other people fail.
Yes.
They're just like, look, they're doing healthy things and they still got cancer. Suck it, right?
That's
And
what I thought I would
that's
get
a terrible,
and that's a reflection on them.
Right,
That's
and that's
not
just like, all right, you're a
reflection on me.
shitty person. I don't have time for that, right?
So I started to just post really vulnerably on Facebook and Instagram what was happening. Like, there were days I was crying and I would, there would be a pile of snotty Kleenex on the floor. And I was like, all I could do today was get out of bed. And by 5 o'clock, I was able to take a shower. That's all I could accomplish today. And then there were days I was like, oh my gosh, things are starting to happen. What was crazy by being so public is every person in my life with whatever gift they had was like, I want to help Jen still be here. So this is the Care Bear effect, which is really cool.
And I want to hear about this, but that's not shocking to me, because I think, particularly in today's society, I think there is a huge void or lack thereof of genuine emotion.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, in the age of Instagram, where it's just like jets and Lambos and like my life's amazing. Look at me crushing it. I always look at those and I'm like, that person's miserable. Like, that's not your life.
Right.
Like, that's not what's happening.
Right.
And it doesn't resonate with anybody.
Right.
Like, some of the most responded to kind of like content or podcasts that we have ever done, meaning Best Hour, are the ones that were like, I think one of the highest responses we got was, it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
I was not okay.
People hit us up and they were like, dude, that hit me like a ton of bricks when you were talking about that, because like, I've been living in this world where I thought that I was the only one, and I didn't know what to do. So I was down. I was feeling down and out, and I was feeling, and then worse, I was feeling alone.
Yes.
And I think people need that kind of stuff. And I think, and this is what I'm super stoked to see what HQ's doing and the magic of CrossFit, and they're bringing all that stuff back. And I'm like, this is the thing that the community was thriving on.
Right.
And then it died. Yeah. Literally. And then
but it's
coming back now. And I'm like, I see it, and shout out to Tyson and all the crew, and I'm forgetting everybody, but like all the folks in the media team, like, keep doing that shit. It's good.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that the people resonate with. That they're like that. They're like, oh, that's me. Yeah. Just in a slightly different flavor. Like somebody who's not completely full of crap is telling you, like, I'm having a terrible day.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
There's no backstory. There's no motivational statement on the end of this. Is like, today sucks, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to get through the rest of it. Yeah. But I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Right. And they're like, okay. Yeah. Like, I can resonate with that message, because I kind of feel the same way. And so it's not shocking to me that was their response to that.
Yeah. So this is where the army of Care Bears comes. So this is like the little bit of woo. When I was a dietitian pre-cancer, I do a lot of eating disorder recovery, and you kind of heard my backstory from the podcast yesterday. And one of the things I always tried to do was, my job is to give you skills, but also uplift you and give you that belief and courage and resilience so that you can be strong enough to eventually go on your own. And I always thought about being a little Care Bear. So I'm a kid of the 80s, kind of grew up in the 90s, and I loved the Care Bear. Like, Cheer Bear was my favorite. Okay. And I always would picture
zero shock to me.
My belly full of like rainbows and hearts. That's why I keep complimenting your little daughter. I was like, you have rainbows, you have hearts. I love you. Like, she's awesome.
She is a little Care Bear.
She dresses like a champ.
Yeah.
And I always would just picture, like, how do I give love to this person? Whether that's listening without interruption, whether that's the right words I've shared, whether it's a powerful question I've asked them. Maybe it's a hug. Maybe they just need a really good hug when they leave my appointment. And what was so crazy as I started to share my cancer journey is I felt like every single human being, and this is the part that like really gets me emotional about the journey, linked arms, and like thousands of people I've ever interacted with, CrossFit, when I went to university, I was a varsity rower, hockey player, employees, clients, any single person in my life, linked arms, and I got the Care Bear stare back. And I actually felt there were days I would just be like resting in a hospital bed, and all of a sudden this like tingly popping sensation kind of felt like almost like Rice Krispies on the inside. And I was like, someone is thinking about me, and their love is like disintegrating cancer. I cannot explain that scientifically. I don't, it's not chemotherapy, but I actually think the ingredient, because I thought about love going into those cancer cells to kill it. And I didn't think of it as like, oh, poison, let's kill cancer. It was like, love is going to get me through this. And so my entire community of any single person who cared for me, loved me, and they did what they could. I had the meal train, people drop off healthy food for my husband and I. One of my rowing friends I hadn't seen in 15 years became a very high-level clinical cancer researcher in the States. And she's like, Jen, I don't want to overstep. I've done as much research as I can. I found you the best ovarian cancer clinical trial in the world. Happens to be in your home country. Now it's 3 hours away. Do you want me to contact the principal investigator? I can get you into the study if you want. And I was like, yes, like you are an angel. How did you just pull that off?
Right.
And any person with whatever gift they have, even the gruff old man calling our gym, telling me to start taking ginger supplements, I got Care Bear stared back. And any time I could feel someone thinking about me, you could physically feel something happening on the inside. And so this was so weird. At 4 months in, after surgery, I started off with this terrible oncologist that was just like, Jen, like I really said the 8% thing, and he almost laughed in my face. And he's like, haha, that's cute that you think that. He's like, basically, anyone I see dies of this. Like, you are not going to get out. Like, just be at peace. Like, and he really tried to turn into this like philosophical, like you're in denial. We really have to like hammer home that you're dying. You need to understand this is the end.
It probably is.
He is now fired.
Right. It's probably infuriating to hear that, but
yeah.
Not to completely poo-poo on him.
Right.
I can understand why you like not having that conversation is almost a dereliction of his duties. It's like, hey, statistically speaking, this is not going to go well.
Right.
Like we need to have that conversation.
Right.
I don't know how far I would take that, but I'd be like, I'm going to say it.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be like, no, you're going to be fine. And then like,
right. And you're like unprepared.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but he just kind of like kept overemphasizing it. And I was like, well, this isn't doing anything to help me.
Got it the first time. Got it the first time.
Yeah,
Doc.
exactly. I understand. Like I'm doing therapy. I'm working on making peace that like I'm going to have a short life and die in my mid 30s. Like, holy crap. So, what then kind of happened from there is I had a yoga teacher that I'd been going to her studio reach out, and she's like, I would like to gift you some Reiki. So like energy healing. And I'd never, ever done anything like that before. But
now I feel like my joke about stones earlier before we hit the pot, before we record is
like
very
I'd
timely.
never done anything like that. But again, I was like, yeah, that kind of feels right to accept it. So as she was treating me, I'm going to really sound like I'm like off my rocker, but like this is honest to God how this whole story progressed.
Well, like before you even say the story, I'm like, at this point, like, who cares?
Right.
Like what is lost by just like, hey, listen, you're gonna go outside and stare at the sun for 5 minutes every day because like somehow like these these beams are gonna go into your body. I'm like, whatever, I'll try it. Who cares?
Right. So as my eyes are closed, I can kind of feel like energy flowing. I start having this vision of a wolf. So it was almost like I was dreaming, but I wasn't actually asleep. But you're having like visions like you're asleep and it's a dream. And so this wolf comes up to me, and she's like, we were part of a pack, and I actually think I like was a wolf in the vision, and then I'm like running with the pack, and then this one wolf is like, no, we need to break off from the pack and you need to follow me. And this is right at the time where I'm trying to make the decision.
Are you doing like psychedelics or anything?
No, no, like not at all.
Okay.
Trying to make the decision, do I do chemo or not? So because I had 2 cancers, the one cancer responds to chemo, the other ovarian cancer didn't.
Okay.
The one that responds to cancer was a smaller amount, and it was the part that they cut out of my sigmoid colon.
Okay.
The other cancer that was everywhere, when I actually went into PubMed, those women died earlier who got chemo because it just obliterated their immune system.
Yeah, they have no ability to fight now. Yeah.
And that kind of cancer doesn't even really respond to chemo. So it has a lot of neurological toxicity. And I was like, I already have a damaged nerve. If I do that chemo, there's a good chance my leg is never going to come back. So I knew that was a high risk of choosing the chemo route. But then they took it to a tumor board, and maybe this is a liability thing to cover their butts. They're just like, well, because you did have the cancer that does respond to this chemo, we would recommend you
What's
do
a tumor
chemo.
board?
Oh, a tumor board is like a panel of like smart cancer people when they're not sure what the right next course of action is. So they don't send all cancer cases to it. It's almost like a
And they collectively, they're like, here's what we're
council.
going to do.
Yeah. So they like look at your medical file, they look at your cancer pathology, they look at the genetics, and then like it's just a board that weighs in
Got it.
in more complicated cancer scenarios to be like, let's figure out the course of treatment. So it got escalated because they didn't know what to do with me.
Right.
It was like a weird case. And so the tumor board came back and they're like, yes, we recommend chemo. And I'm not anti like Western medicine and support. I actually don't think, like kind of like we were talking about politics, as opposed to I'm in this camp, I'm in that camp. It's issue by issue.
Right.
So I was like, what pieces of Western medicine align with me? What pieces maybe don't align as well? And then I could like pick and choose on treatment.
Like we were saying yesterday, sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable. So as I was struggling with this chemotherapy decision, I'm getting Reiki, and this wolf is like, you need to come with me and we need to break off from the pack. So I'm like running with this wolf in my head. And then all of a sudden I'm in this forest and there's a campfire and there's this like group of tribal elders. And it was like
Are you dreaming? What like
I don't
what in
even
the
know what's
context of
happening.
you're just sitting around in
no,
this virtual
no,
world? Like,
I'm lying down, eyes are closed, and she's doing like Reiki on me. And I've never done Reiki before this.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if this is normal. This is just what actually happened.
Okay.
So again, I'm like, this is where it gets a
I
little
mean,
weird.
I kind of understand Reiki, but maybe clearly I don't because you're running into wolves with forest.
I know.
Wolves.
Like, don't ask me because I'm
Okay.
like truly a scientific girl. But I was
It's,
also
so
open.
okay. Let me correct this. I mean, it's a form of meditation, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like energy transfer
Right.
and energy healing
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's definitely woo woo. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I was just open to it. And I was like, I don't know why, but my intuition is like, this seems like a thing you should do.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm hallucinating, dreaming. I don't know what's going on in my brain, but there's like visions happening. This wolf and I can like talk in like wolf talk. And so she takes me to this like campfire in this circle of like tribal elders. And they're like, actually, Jen, we're your tumor board. Like, we are really going to reflect on your best outcome here.
This is so
I sound
wacky, dude.
whack. I know. Did you think we were going to go here?
No. No.
And they ultimately were like, you've got this. Like, what you are doing with sleep and stress and food
Sorry,
and
I just like really imagining this is like the doctor's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I've actually consulted the wolves here,
Yeah.
and they've told me that I'm not going to take your recommendation.
But, like-
but thank you."
like,
It's just like,
I never
this
said
is
that
nuts.
to the team, but like
Yeah.
that's actually what happened.
Yeah.
And so I woke up from that session and I was so conflicted what to do before going in. And I want to remember there's a Shel Silverstein, who's like a childhood poet. There is a poem, and I'm like blanking on the words of the poem. Maybe I can find it and like send it to you guys so it can like flash on the screen. And essentially what the poem was like leaning into yourself for your own answers. That's like the gist of the poem. And so I had read that poem, done this Reiki session, and I was like, I've got my answer. Like, I now, in my heart, in my soul, know that I don't need to do chemo, and I'm just going to continue on. And then the other thing, too, is like, I'm not so rigid. So, like, if I made a wrong move, I can always change my mind.
You can always do chemo later.
Like, I can always do chemo
Well,
later.
maybe,
It might
but-
be in a worse spot,
right.
but, like, if I totally, the wolves and I mess this up, I can always do chemo later. So
What do you think, guys? Should we try it?
we should all consult our wolves,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I turned down chemo, and they're like, this is really wrong. You're going to die. And I was like, you know what, actually, guys, I'm just going to take a break from you. And that's where I just never went back and talked to that oncologist. And then I got into the clinical trial, and the clinical trial did a lot more genetic testing to really like understand the tumor mechanics. And then they just watched me really closely. I got scanned every 3 months. I just successfully graduated to only being scanned twice a year instead of 4 times a year because they haven't found a trace of cancer.
0.
So at 4 months, this is what I did. I was still with the oncologist, the Mr. Death, and I was like,
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm
Hey,
feeling.
Doc. Good to see you.
Oh, he was the worst. He was.
Let me guess. I'm going to die.
That's every appointment. And so all I needed from him was a signature. I wanted to get a PET scan, which is like a full body scan where you can really see if cancer's still in you. And in Canada, we were talking about healthcare, like all my surgery, my
Right.
medical appointments were covered, but PET scans aren't unless you have a very specific type of brain or lung cancer because they're just really expensive for our medical
Right.
system. So that's where they kind of regulate like where the healthcare dollars go. And I was like, I'm happy to pay for that myself. Like, I need the peace of mind. And he's like, Jen, you're going to die. Like, I'm not going to sign that. And I was like, well, okay, there's 3 scenarios here. I'm actively dying and it's really bad. And can I swear on this? I'm like,
Fuck no.
no, I'm like, I'm fucked, right?
Right.
Like, that's option 1 is you keep telling me like, I'm fucked. I have like 6 or 8 months left. So like, let's just see. And then I'm going to like live it up. Like, why would I put money into my retirement account this year? If you're telling me I'm
Yeah, I
fucked,
can't take it with me.
I'm going to go climb the Alps
Right.
and surf Tofino and do some really cool shit. Or B, it's there, but it's a lot slower growing than you're suggesting. And that gives me an idea of like, maybe I do want to go back to work and maybe I do want to, create some normalcy while I'm waiting for things to progress. Or unicorn, rainbows, Care Bears. Like, there's this third option that is still an option where it's going to actually be okay. And I said, I just want the knowledge so I can make life decisions based on where things are staged in my body. And he's like, reluctantly gave me his signature because that's all I needed was you
Right.
need an oncologist signature to get this PET scan. So I drove 3 hours away to go find a PET scan machine, got my scan, 0 cancer. So I'm 4.5 months after surgery. I've now learned how to walk. I've like dealt with Dr. Death, consulted with my wolves, ate really, really well. CrossFit rallied behind me, did a lot of meditation, visualization, like got my staples pulled out, like all of that stuff. For the longest time, I was really scared my guts were going to like split open, but neither here nor
Yeah.
there. I am good. And so the results come back and they're like radical remission. We can't find one teeny tiny baby cell of cancer inside of you. Like, for all intents and purposes, you are a healthy 34-year-old and there's like nothing
4 months post-op.
4 months post-op. Which
Is there
pretty
another
crazy.
case like that you've ever heard of?
Not that I know of, but again, success leaves clues. I'm sure there are other people in the world who have probably pulled off. And again, I do acknowledge that there's probably a component of luck. There's a component of genetics. There's a component of mindset. There's a component of nutrition.
I'm sure all of those are a factor, but I feel like the one that would have the highest correlation is just the high degree of healthy user bias with regard to your lifestyle, all the things that you're
Right.
doing are just, it's just one of those things like, if you want a shot
Yeah.
at coming out of this in one piece, these are all the things that you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
And luckily you were doing them prior to.
Right.
Now slap on, another component of just sheer willpower to continue on living.
Yeah.
And you're like, and that's the recipe that nobody can like dissect it and be like, here's what it exists. Or just like, nope, that's just a handful of, a little dash of luck, a lot of willpower, and a lot of good behavior.
Yep.
Leading up to that.
It was like a
and
perfect
following,
mix.
right? So.
And
okay.
I mean, I'm a little cold. I've also outed myself now that I'm a bit of a, kooky weirdo, and
Yep.
I'm proud to do it. I promised Mark England I would wear this
Yeah.
on camera. But this Cheer Bear, hopefully I can get it through the mic. Oh,
Here we go.
let me adjust. But this little guy, so like Cheer Bear, as I said, give me a little Care
With the
Bear on
ears,
camera. Yeah, I got the paws, got the little Care Bear tail. But I didn't do this alone. Like, this truly was,
Right.
I'm going to fully rock
Yep.
the ears. Yeah. I fully believe that.
Now you look like a crazy person.
I really
it's
do.
Great.
Right.
I'm like, here's your nutritionist or your registered dietitian. Eat your vegetables.
Right. But it was this belief going in,
Yeah.
and I think it was luck, like you said, habits, mindset,
Right.
and a community that like linked arms, and they literally gave me like Care Bear stare, Jen,
Right.
we're going to pull you through this.
Right.
And yeah. And then the other thing too, so the other thing that started to happen in the Reiki sessions outside of the Wolves consult is I went down a few more sessions with my practitioner, and there was a day that she was working on me, and all of a sudden my throat started to vibrate, and I've never had that happen before. And so my throat's vibrating, and I was like, this is kind of strange. And then I have a different thought that pops into my head. No wolves in this one. But the thought, I couldn't get it out of my head, was, you are playing too small. You're ready to step on a bigger stage. you're playing too small, you're ready to step on a bigger stage. So professionally at this stage in my career, I am a private practice dietitian doing like one-on-one.
And it should be noted, you're still working this entire time.
I took a few months off, but then I went, back to work.
So how many months are you completely not working?
For probably the first 3 months, 4 months, nothing other than just kind of like leadership stuff for my team. But I truly delegated my entire private practice to my team of dietitians.
Yeah, but I don't think that should be understated. Like that's not, even if it's just leadership stuff. Like sometimes that can be the heaviest lift inside of your organization. It's not like do the task. It's like that person needs a nudge or needs guidance or needs to be course corrected or needs feedback that's probably not going to be comfortable, like whatever it might be.
I just wanted to give them the belief in themselves that they could step into this role. Because I actually had a pretty new grad who I'd hired to start working for me. And then I have to give her the news 2 months into the job, like, oh shit, I have really bad cancer and I'm going off for surgery. And now I'm going to give you my entire caseload. And I started to kind of quickly film myself on video so I could download my brain of how I was doing gamification and motivational interviewing and just the way I taught that iceberg of success we went through yesterday.
So this is kind of a forcing function for you to go in and create systems in order for this to scale. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one of the greatest gifts to come out of this cancer story. Not that I would wish cancer on anyone, but it forced me to look at my thinking, to look at my leadership, to look at my systems and delegation. And I liked control, and this taught me you can't control everything. So how do you control the parts you can control and let go of the parts you can't? So I come back and I did a half day once a week for the first few months where I was my energy, I was still really tired. I can't emphasize enough how much energy it took to recover from the surgery. And then I would go to therapy, I'd read books, I would meditate, I would go hiking in the woods. I just had a very peaceful, engaging kind of day. And so she's working for me. She's really coming into her own. I'm so proud of her. I'm really practicing how to delegate, how to lead and be a great leader. And then I'm building these systems to kind of allow the business to grow. And so the business is actively growing. And then my throat starts vibrating. And all of a sudden I could not get the thought out of my head. You are playing too small. You're ready to step on a bigger stage. So I was a foods and nutrition prof at a university and a private practice dietitian as a solopreneur with one very part-time kind of employee who then had to become full-time when I stepped out. And so all of a sudden I knew why I wasn't meant to die is I need to change the food culture in the fitness community. As we talked about yesterday, I don't like complaining. I don't like just griping. And one of the things I was noticing in our community is we would get athletes coming from other gyms where their trainer would be like, carbs are all bad. And they put them on these very black, white, all nothing ways of eating, didn't meet the client where they were at, and then didn't ultimately help them get better towards their goals or even maybe messed up their relationship with food. And I was like, I know this area very well. I know how to teach nutrition and make it fun. I know CrossFit. I love CrossFit. I am a CrossFitter. I was like, can I help CrossFit from the inside improve its nutrition communication?
So are you starting inside the box, obviously, first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had already had a great box environment, with our CrossFit.
With regard to nutrition?
With regard to nutrition.
Okay.
So then I wanted it to start to spread into CrossFit and fitness at large.
So what does that look like? Because that's always everybody's like, well, how do you do that, right? And so I feel like it's a big, hairy monster.
Yeah.
And it is to a large extent situationally dependent.
Right.
How did you do that?
So
at
again,
CrossFit London.
So inside of our box, we integrated it very early with new members so that nutrition was always a part of the conversation.
So what does that look like specifically?
We would often do small group presentations. So for a while we did
onboarding.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And then we also because my office was right in the gym and I would always keep my door open if I wasn't in a one-on-one session, I made sure I just had a lot of friendly, informal conversations with people to just let them know that there was a nutrition presence to kind of casually answer questions. And then if they felt comfortable, inviting them in to go further and go into some stuff. We also had a bod pod machine. I know many gyms have InBodies, and that was something that members could have access to. And then that kind of included some nutrition conversation around it as well.
It's a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah.
It's an objective thing. And then, I think a lot of gyms, we just recently did a podcast with Jason Kalipa, and I was relieved to hear him say, he was like, we have just not really addressed nutrition in the 15 years we've been an affiliate owner. And I was like, I kind of feel the same. Like, we've done it and we've tried, and my wife's tried to do it, but like she was still just it didn't have the bandwidth, right? And we're
Like,
just
it's
time
now
that
kind of
we
like
really address that, because we just
it's time.
and it's, you know, it's always like coming back to the level 1 manual and thing. It's just like, and I'm like, why are there scenarios where we're falling short in getting people where they want to go? And then I'm like, oh, dummy, because we're not addressing the base of the pyramid, which is like what we tell people when we do the level 1s and level 2s. Like, cool, here's the theoretical hierarchy for the development of an athlete. Starts with nutrition. And listen, the degree with which that you approach this or engage in this topic with your clients will vary widely. But the take-home point here is you will not get to the top without addressing that portion of it. And it's like, you can get really far.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are inherently things that will happen when somebody walks into a CrossFit gym. You're like, you need to show up 3 to 5 times a week, exercise at moderate intensity. We'll make sure that we're giving you something that is appropriate every day so that you can come back and train tomorrow. That will take you a long way.
Right.
But it does have a plateau
if you don't address nutrition.
If you don't address the nutrition. And then I think a lot of gyms feel like, well, I don't have, because that was just candid, I'm not doing nutrition coaching. Like, I know you love it.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's
touching
the difference.
it,
So
right?
here's the advice I'd give to any of the affiliates who are like, I know it's important, but it's not translating. You need that dedicated coach on the team. So because I was the person who was, I'm going to be the nutrition coach, I made our nutrition program thrive. When I started my nutrition certification company for CrossFit and functional fitness gyms, when the owner does it right, usually it's great to have the owner be aware of what the coaching team is doing, but the owner's going to be sort of hands off. They're like the quarterback, but you need that 1, 2, maybe 3 coaches who are like, this is my baby.
I would recommend
I'm going to run with it. Yeah.
Right. And I would strongly encourage everybody, be patient finding that somebody.
Yes.
It is highly likely that it is not somebody that is currently on your team.
Right.
And you should go. And if that takes you a year to find that person, wait. Don't spin it up. It will crash. It will kind of be a black eye for you. And it will be harder for you the next time.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, this is the same thing again.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't pull the trigger on that, but I am saying, like, be a little bit more thoughtful, be a little bit more patient about finding the right person, like vet it, ask the hard questions. And it's not just like, oh yeah, I like nutrition. And it's like, that's not what I asked you.
No.
This is a significantly larger undertaking than you're probably expecting.
Yeah.
So we need to have a longer conversation about that. And
you want someone that's not too dogmatic with their nutrition. Of like, this is the only way.
But
you have to have the ability
to
to
be
read
flexible.
your client.
You got to be flexible. But I'm referring to like the gym owner who wants to do this. I'm like, be patient. So for instance, like you met Britt.
Yeah,
like,
she's amazing.
Britt and I have slow rolled this to the point where like, are we slow rolling this too much?
Yeah.
Like we're like, we want to get it right. It's patience. We don't need it.
Right.
We need it, but it's not like
you want to do it
necessary.
right.
It's not necessary. It's not like we have to have it right now. And I'm like, I want to do this right. I want to be thoughtful about it. I want to make sure that you understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand it. I want to make sure the staff understand it. I want to make sure we can communicate it. And I want to make sure that we can integrate it into everything that we do so that when it does roll out,
the home run.
It hits, right? And it's not just be like, hey, you're going to do this on the front end. I mean, like a fully integrated system into the gym where just like it gets input here, and then it gets put here, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to have this educational series, and then that's going to lead into this.
Yep.
And that takes time.
Yeah.
And it's not just launch a nutrition program and you're good. And, and it really chaps my ass when people are like, just spin up a nutrition. It will just bring in an extra $5,000. And I'm like, that is an incomplete thought. And you are setting people up for failure. And it infuriates me because I've been around long enough to know that is not how that works.
Right.
And it's not that nutrition is not good, and it's not that you shouldn't run a nutrition program.
Right.
But it is a much more thorough conversation than just sell a subpar product because you want to make more money because that's a shitty idea. Right. So that's all I really want to express. And if you can't tell us, be like, is a hot topic.
You're very passionate. Yes.
But it's important because we want to do this well, and we want to engage with these people for an extended amount of time. It's not just ACV people to death because, they're paying me $300 a month. And I'm like, cool, great story. What are they getting for their $300 bucks, right? Like, that's the conversation I want people to have. I want them to pay $300 and feel like they're getting $1,000 worth of value on that, which requires us to be significantly more thorough and more thoughtful and more intentional about what it is that we engage with.
And who that coach is has to have the best conversation, EQ, counseling skills. Because nutrition coaching isn't just here's the WOD on the board, follow it, A, B, C, blah, blah, blah. It really is that motivational interviewing, asking good questions, getting them to problem solve, calling them out in the right way when they need to be called out. And so you're right, finding that right person is super important. And then when you get that piece right, and that coach is so dedicated to continuing learning and, really building that skill set, you got a client for life.
Yeah, and I don't want to be totally pessimistic about it, but because the reality is you just need one.
Right.
You need one, and if let's just say there's 10 CrossFit gyms in your town, which would be a lot.
Yeah.
There's 10 people in that town, or somebody that is relatively close that could work virtually that could solve that problem for you.
Absolutely.
So it's not something that can't be done. I just think that it should be approached very differently, and it just really. Every time I say, I'm going to start up a nutrition program, and I have I'm like, who's doing it? What are you offering? 0 questions for anything. And I'm like, I'm just going to sell it. I'm like, this has more negative impact on you than positive. I don't care how much money you make in the first month. Long term, this is going to come back to bite you in the ass because you've not fully thought it through.
Right.
Right. Short term. Think long term.
So that's exactly kind of what the thought was in my head. And it's so interesting that you say who, because when I get on a mentoring call with a nutrition client, the very first call, all we talk about is the who. Who are you helping? Who is doing the coaching? And if we can get those 2 who's really well mapped out and trained in the right way, and then it's a lot of touch points and high quality coaching to help the coach learn how to be a better nutrition coach. Right. Because if the who fails, the whole program is dead.
Yeah, there's a very specific. I don't even know what it is, but I'd be curious if I was to what's your? Do you know what your personality type is?
No.
Okay.
A Care Bear? No, obviously not. Is that a correct answer?
Yeah, I am a small pink bear. No, just I would be curious if there's a common. So I would you and Britt are very just spending time around you both. I'm like, you both have very similar traits.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which leads me to believe there's probably a common personality type if they were to do Myers-Briggs or one of the other ones
ENTJ on Myers-Briggs.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think I'm also an ENTJ or ENFJ maybe.
Something
anyway,
like that,
yeah, but extrovert obviously.
Yeah.
And I think you in the nutrition world that's probably more common than not because of the amount of engagement that you have to have with people.
Lots of conversation. Yeah.
So I'd just be curious, and I think a lot of people, if you were to just measure on that, it would probably get you a better option. It's a kind of no different than the floor, meaning you could have somebody that could get somebody really good results who's less qualified or less technical simply because they have super high presence and attitude.
Huge. It is an energy kind of exchange when you're nutrition counseling. You need someone that is really empathetic. You need someone that can ask good questions and listen without being I'm going to jump in there and coach over top of the client.
So hard to do, by the way.
It is. And it's a practice. It's a skill. When I started as a nutrition coach.
The waiting to talker is what it's referred to.
Yes.
I'm listening, but I'm actually just waiting to talk.
Exactly. So, there is that right person. And I think if the gym owner, the affiliate owner can just take their time and, like you said, be patient. But I think a lot of affiliate owners aren't even on their radar thinking about looking for that person, because that person can really change the culture, the results, the benefit of being inside of an affiliate. But I think it's a forgotten, like you said, it's sort of it's important but not urgent. And then it just keeps getting kicked down the road.
I also think there's a strategic error, which I have made many times actually, which is the launch.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, very specifically, and if you're listening to this, this is probably going to hurt your feelings. You go from nothing to launch.
Right.
And there was almost it was just oh, we're not doing anything. And the next day be boom, here we go. Here's the thing. And what you've not done is you've not created any sort of value on the front end. There's no trust. There's no anything that would resemble social proof or education.
Right.
And that's the other part of being patient is you should lead with I don't know, as much as humanly possible, quite frankly, information
Yep.
and value and free,
Right.
quite frankly.
Like we would do a good like nutrition to prep for the open. And so we gave that to our members. We would like set it up on a Saturday after a workout and people like, oh, like I'm really interested. Like what should I eat before an open workout? Should I be eating a little bit differently? And there was a little bit of sports nutrition, but really would be at like, you're here for like lifestyle. So let's actually talk some lifestyle nutrition.
Right.
But our members always loved that and they could look forward to that every single open because that was something that we did.
And if somebody's looking for examples, like I'd be curious to see what your thoughts were. But I think, a series of talks.
Yes, absolutely.
And then if you're into
We did like a snack box seminar.
Right.
So like, let's get healthy snacks set up in your house. Here's a whole bunch of ideas.
That combined with both some kind of long form blogging or short form email, kind of like little, tidbits and information and just think like general education in order to start to bridge the gap, because you very briefly glazed over it yesterday when we were talking just about behavior change. And this is something we talk about in the level 2 with regard to the nutrition, just the states of behavior change. And I think the error fundamentally, if we were looking at those different blocks, so the states are essentially contemplation, action, and then maintenance.
Right.
When you launch too soon, what you've done is you've skipped the whole kind of
pre-contemplation,
but to like get them in a mental state where it's something that they're thinking about, because that specific topic, people will jump to fitness, right? They'll just be like, I'm going to do it. Yeah. It happens all the time. Like January, that is quite literally the January rush, right?
Yes.
Nutrition is not the same, right? Nutrition is typically, at least in my experience, I'd be curious what yours is typically a much longer process.
The know, like, and trust to get a nutrition client has a lot longer runway. One of the things for any coaches out there, any affiliate owners out there that are like, oh, I kind of want a better nutrition presence, is just start by being a role model on your social media channels. So a huge way that I get clients without paid ads is I'll just walk the talk and just capture it, but in a non-putting other people down way. So I might like chop up vegetables and make a little veggie bucket. And then just like on Sunday, I still have like messy Sunday bun hair, being like, hey, here's my like veggie bucket for the week. And kind of getting things set up.
I think the key there is tone.
Yes.
Like how you present that information.
You don't want to be like an asshole and like make other people feel
like,
bad.
if you don't eat like this, you're never going to get results.
Exactly.
Oh, I guess I'm never getting results.
Or like I might do a bit of batch cooking or like a healthy dinner and a slow cooker or crock pot meal, and then be like, you know what? Actually, let's take 4 extra portions and freeze it, and then just do that as a post. Or I was at a party this summer and I don't really drink a whole lot. So I just bought myself some kombucha and I just put it in what are the red Solo cups or whatever. And I just made a post of like, hey, I'm at a party enjoying like a backyard barbecue, but I also don't drink a ton of alcohol. And I thought this might be a cool idea for other people in the same situation where Is
there like a social, because it kind of looks like I'm drinking?
Exactly.
Because I don't want to feel like the weird person.
And it was like a work party for my, my husband or whatever. And I was just like, I want to have energy and go do my workout tomorrow and not drink a whole lot. And I was like, kombucha is kind of a treat. I don't drink it all the time. And I think I got like over 100 likes and people like, that's such a good idea.
Right.
Yeah. Like we are being more social. Things are back and COVID's done and blah, blah, blah. So people are like, that was a great idea. So I just try to make it really genuine, real life. And then what's interesting is every time I sort of role model what true healthy eating and behavior looks like in my life, people start to send me private DMs and they're like, I've been following you for a while. I think I'm now actually at a point where like I'm ready to reach out and work with you.
Yeah, I think
cool.
And this is the same for what we do as well with regard to the mentoring of business owners, and affiliate owners specifically, because that's all we do. Like you said, the stalking phase is
a key part of.
I think you have to understand there's a very specific time frame for those. And for the gym, they're just like, I think I'm going to get my life together, and it's like search a couple gyms, boom, here's my information. When it comes to anything that would resemble business coaching, mindset, nutrition, things that are a little bit heavier emotionally. The stalking phase is really long, and I mean like 6 to 12 months.
You're
typically,
nail on
where
the
they're
head.
just going to just look at your stuff, and they're gonna. And this is why I think it's important to understand like how you represent things on social media.
Totally.
They're gonna go in there and then they're like, do I resonate with that? do I resonate with that? I'm like, I like that.
You need to keep getting yeses from them
Right.
silently and mentally.
And
like,
then it could be like one or two things that are off tone, or just like,
Right.
nope. And then like, you're out.
Shut it down.
Well, that's it, gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strategic error due to ignorance in a lot of scenarios. Because
Right.
like, oh, I'm just going to launch it because this is what people need. And I'm like, if you want this to work, this is why it's so hard. It requires an immense amount of patience,
Mhm.
and it requires you to be very strategic in nature.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of the game, right? Because we're not
Play
we're
the
not-
long game.
We're playing the long game, right?
Right.
It's like, again, what you're talking about, your story, what we're trying to do in the affiliate, it should not be overlooked that what we are doing, what we are asking the universe for, is to change, to improve another person, another human being's life.
Yeah.
And that might be the biggest ask that you could put out into the universe and be like, you know what I want to do? I want to change somebody's life.
Right.
That is not a small ask
No.
that you throw out into the universe.
Yeah.
And I think you have to respect that. And you'd be like, oh, that is pretty monumental. Like what I've just told the universe, what I want to do,
It's the best job in the world.
right, is not insignificant. Like
Right.
it's fairly profound as far as I'm concerned. And I don't care what anybody thinks about it.
Mhm.
You should approach it as such, which means like, hey, that is a lifelong thing that you just made a decision on.
Right.
You should settle in and you should be like, cool, this is the long game. Because if
Yeah.
I'm going to change people's lives, it's going to take a lifetime.
It is. Yeah. And you need to keep reading books. You need to keep getting certifications. You need to keep learning from different information sources. You also need to have the courage to not have imposter syndrome of just learning, and not doing. So a lot of times when I work with a more green coach, I'll remind them exactly that point you just said is you are in this to change lives. It is actually selfish of you to have all this knowledge in your brain and you feel too scared to put yourself out there or to start to work with people.
One of the things I found to kind of avoid that, and I think everybody still has it, is have the discipline to not talk above your pay grade.
Yes.
They're like, don't talk about shit you don't know. Don't
Yep.
talk about things that you
Don't
can't
make stuff
go.
up.
Don't make stuff up. Don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't throw yourself out there on things that you cannot discuss 2, 3, 4, 5 levels deep. Right?
Yep.
Stay in your zone of education or your zone of greatness at that moment, and then
Keep striving to get better.
And now you will get to the next one, and then I can add a layer to it. Be like, nope, I can talk to that here, and then you're like, cool. Okay, cool. Now I can talk to that here, 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 and here, and then eventually it's like, how deep would you like to go? And now I can be like, I can tailor that interaction, which is like, I see where you want to go. I'm going to skip these first 3 and I'm going to go here because I can see that's what you're asking for. Whereas somebody else might not be ready for that, but I'm capable
You have the skill set.
I'm capable of bouncing around at like 30,000 foot to in the weeds. So kind of like right in the middle, you're in a transition phase here. And I know exactly what that looks like. Just be aware of that and be aware of your skill set when you start to do that. And it actually is going to relieve you a ton of stress. You're like, oh, I don't have to know all the things.
And build a network around you.
Right.
Like it is also okay to be like, I'm going to be your core habits-based nutrition coach. But for this particular issue, we might need to loop in a psychologist or a social worker or a registered dietitian or a functional medicine practitioner.
Do JV stuff, right? Joint venture stuff. Like connect with other people and don't do financial traction. Just do free stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Just
Like,
help them.
Yeah.
Just get them support.
Even with other professionals. Be like, okay, we're going to do a rev share. And I'm like, no.
No.
This is another, like, gym owners, again, like when you're doing a lot of these things, they're like, hey, I've got a person. Should I like charge them? I'm like, let them come in for free.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them do it.
Right.
But you don't have to make money off of every single transaction.
Agreed.
It's actually a long-term horrific
Do
strategy.
the right thing and play the long-term game.
Right. It's actually a horrific strategy and makes you a money grabber. Now, that's not to say money is bad. It's not. It's actually how you do good shit. But everything cannot be a monetary transaction.
Agreed.
Right. And it's just like, a nutritionist wants to come in and talk to everybody. I'm like, do you have a nutritionist? And they're like, no. And I'm like, let her come in for free. Let him come in for free.
Yeah.
What do they want to talk about? Do you agree with the sentiment that they're about to discuss?
Right.
Cool. Let them run. I don't care. Right. Because that might be the person you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
And like now we can strike a deal later.
Right.
But we led with value. We didn't muddy the waters.
Right.
I didn't over ask on the front end.
Yeah.
And I think there's just, it's not even tactic. It's just an overall like mindset and approach to this whole topic. If you're talking about like entrepreneurs or, additional services or what you provide to your clients, there's a way to get there. And I think people just get a little too anxious and a little too greedy on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you're talking about your gym really diving into the nutrition this year. Where do you see that happening inside your CrossFit facility?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Meaning like we've really thought about, well, three primary places, right? So if you want like the exact kind of like points, one is a very specific series of events when they get integrated into the gym.
Okay. So
right?
like new member comes in,
Right.
nutrition's a part of that experience.
And designing that experience looks a little bit different for everybody based on what you can offer, right? So one of them would be having that conversation on the front end, and then a soft connection with Britt, who's the registered dietitian, with no kind of, it's not pushy, right?
Right.
Just
No
like,
high pressure sales.
right. No high pressure sales. Be like, hey, this is now. It is something that we pitch on the front and be like, hey, this is a way to get to kind of accelerate what it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
Like the obvious optimal solution is both.
Yes.
Right. CrossFit, nutrition. Okay. Now, if you're not ready for that, cool. But
no problem.
And I felt really icky about that for a long time, meaning like leading with that. Because, because again, that was an internal thing. There was like, my own stories about money and all that kind of stuff. And then you have to get over that over time and say, no, my obligation is to give them what I think is the best option for them, or present what I think is the best option, and just understand that they have no obligation to buy, which is like, but I'm the professional.
Yep.
And I know without a shadow of a doubt, this is your best option.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take it.
Right. But just know it's an option available to you.
And it's because like I was making assumptions, and I just have to stop doing that. Just like, they might be ready to make that leap.
Absolutely.
And if they're not, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to rob them of the decision-making process by not presenting it because I have insecurity. So I was like, it's got to go there. We just got to get
so well said.
Then there are kind of a series of events, and then an educational. That one is not very specific, but like a series of events would be workshops, master classes, things like that we're kind of slowly refining and putting in place. But all of these are both events and then evergreen and strategy wise. So so what I mean by like, think of a webinar. A webinar that is live that people can register for, but then that can get packaged later for a value add for somebody that goes into high ticket sales.
Perfect.
And then the other one is an ongoing educational strategy to continue the conversation about.
Is that like the one-on-one with Britt that just keeps going?
Or that could just be like a series of like, hey, this is an educational series. Like I just made like a 10-part series on, it's like 10 most commonly used supplements inside the CrossFit gym.
Yeah, great.
And it's not like, and I led it with like, I don't care if you buy supplements.
Right.
But it's high likelihood that you're going to ask me about at least 3 to 4 of these.
Right. Here's some more information.
Here's some more information. Here's how it would be beneficial. Ask a question. Here's the questions that you should ask.
Yeah.
We're here. We're available. Talk to us. Talk to Britt.
Yeah.
But just having that conversation, and it's, yes, they can buy stuff. They don't have to.
Right.
I told them on the front end, I don't care.
Right.
If you do, I'd be nice if you bought it from me. It would help the gym.
Right.
And you prefer to buy from me than from GNC, so we might as well just do that.
Yeah.
And then kind of like adjusting the tone there. So like that's one. And then you get into the other stuff like, meal prepping. Like she did she's getting ready to Britt, she's getting ready to tee up I think it's a meal prepping masterclass that she's building. And and the question's like, do you charge for those? Do you pay for? I'm like, I don't know.
And sometimes it's okay to do both.
It depends, right? It depends on who you are. It depends on like how good it is. It depends on your resume, if you will. What's your professional expertise? Like, have you provided any value on the front end? There's no answer to that. It's just like, give me the context of this situation, and I'll give you a contextual answer.
Yeah.
Because I might just be like, you definitely should not charge for that.
Right.
Right. Number one, you've given no value in the front end. Number two, you're not very good at it. So just give it away for free.
Right.
Start learning a skill set so that you can get your reps in. And at some point, be like, this is definitely has value.
Yeah.
Because I got my free reps in. And people are like, that was super helpful. I'm like, cool. Now I have data and I have feedback that says like, this is something that is impactful for people, which now warrants a monetary transaction.
Well, and for those coaches that have started to get those reps in, maybe within a box, and then maybe there is a more formalized nutrition coaching relationship, now you can create those ripple effects out in your community where you can start to contact maybe even from your membership, HR reps, business owners, health and wellness teams, and then send that nutrition coach out in their community to do workplace wellness lunch and learns.
Right.
And then maybe even packaging in some training with the gym or some nutrition coaching or a combination. So now a CrossFit box with a nutrition coach is impacting their larger community in an even greater capacity.
And I didn't want to does this have to be a 3-part podcast now, Nate? Right? Like, because I did want to bring that up. The majority of your nutrition clients
now come from the community.
Right. But we're not, well, because you guys sold your affiliate. But at the time, people that were coming to CrossFit London for nutrition coaching were not athletes at CrossFit London.
Right. So we started with that, but I myself started to refine my skills. And then the results I was getting for people was just this word of mouth explosion, which is like always the best kind of advertising because it's a very warm lead. And then I would do those little social media posts. So there was like some social proof, there was some social role modeling, but really it was the results that were speaking for themselves. And then we just made sure we had a very professional, ethical.
Your light died, Nate. I just want to bring that up. He was bragging about the batteries.
Professional, ethical relationship where other CrossFit boxes were like, we haven't figured out the nutrition game. You guys clearly have. So they would actually send clients to our facility for the nutrition coaching, knowing that I was going to be ethical and wasn't going to try to poach their client over to us. And they appreciated that. And like, we all could play nice in the sandbox.
Well,
but then it wasn't even just CrossFit gyms. It was just my larger city.
That's an abundance mindset. But if you were to kind of like remove yourself from the situation, say, be like, well, that person continuing to get results is good for me.
Exactly.
They're going to stay here.
Exactly.
Right. And then ask yourself all the obvious questions like, where do they work? Where do they live? And I'm like, they're not going to drive an extra 25 minutes to go over there. Like, just let them get a nutrition coach because if they're happier because they're getting, which is primarily virtual anyway with regard to that.
Yes.
Like,
who cares?
Send them out, refer them out to somebody because number one, that's what's best for the client.
Right.
So you should do that.
Yeah. And so essentially, we got Google reviews, like the motivational interview was on point. Everything was just working. Now, was it an overnight thing that people think is going to happen? Obviously not. But we got, 5, 6, now I'm 13 years into this. I have a team of 8 of us. We have more business flooding in than we know what to do with, which is a great problem to have. And those systems have been so refined that what I did is I basically videotaped myself teaching all the different modules. So kind of that prof in me is like, how do I break down the science of nutrition coaching to make it really accessible? But I get into like the people skills of motivational interviewing. And then I get into the system skills of like intake forms. How do you track results? How do you coach clients on goals? How do you get the success I'm seeing? I'm basically like, lift the hood of the car. You can have it. Like, I'm going to show you exactly what I do with my team. And then every game, resource, activity, I do a lot of the science in me is like, if you gamify it and you make it fun and don't make people hate nutrition, they're going to want to keep coming back to talk to you.
Right.
So it's everything. You get all of it.
And what's interesting and what I think because we've talked a lot over the past like 3 days, what's interesting for me to observe about you is you kind of have 2 skill sets, which is kind of rare, meaning like you bring a ton of energy, like you like captivating, like clearly I'm sure like there's people like, oh, like I would definitely want to work with her because, she's a Care Bear. Right. and so then there's that. And so there's the personality, which can't necessarily be replicated. Like you could try to siphon off some of those traits. But then the other part of that, which you're very into, is systems, right?
Yes.
But systems that are based on client experience, which is like, as an example, talking about Google reviews, right? She's like, get Google reviews. And then
I'm like, let me show you exactly the system of how I get
But this is where I want to go
reviews.
with that, which is when you watch somebody do something or watch somebody explain something and it becomes very obvious that they're like, oh, every single aspect of why they designed that was like very intentional and could be explained logically on why you did that.
Right.
So, and this is where I think people make errors, right? Just out of pure ignorance, because they're like, oh, I understand the concept of Google reviews.
Right.
I should get them. It helps on SEO. People look at those things. Got it. But then they don't understand the mechanics behind actually getting them, but more importantly, getting them, but getting the tone of Google review that you want.
Yes.
Right. And that goes into like your systems for like how I tee up, an interaction, which then tees up an ask, which then tees up the systems to make the email to get all of this and the follow-up. But all of that is like very intentional.
Yeah.
But it is client-centric, right?
Yes.
And this is the thing that becomes really challenging, I think, is like, how do I marry those 2 things? I don't want to be a robot.
Right.
And I also don't want to lose this passion that I have for what it is that I do. But I do have to figure out how to marry those 2 things because that's like jet fuel. If I can if I can maintain all the passion that I have about my thing and I'd be like, listen, I love people, I want to change your life, and I can figure out how to pair that with good systems and processes that are client-centric,
Yep.
this is a win-win-win strategy for everybody.
Why Prosper exists. So Prosper Nutrition Coaching is, I was like, I have figured out the system of really high quality nutrition coaching for fitness facilities.
Right.
Like I have 13 years in, that is nailed. Then if you can bring me the right coach, give me, it's almost like a puppy. I want to produce a service dog for you.
Right.
So give me your puppy. I'm going to put them through the training, and then finding that personality of the coach, they get to make it their own.
Right.
But I've given them a system where they're not going to flop on their face.
Right.
So it's the resources, it's the games, it's how to onboard the client. I even teach them the Google review process.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is going to be a really important way for you to get more clients. So I've figured out a way to get tons of 5-star reviews. Let me show you word for word, sentence by sentence how I do it. And here's my email script.
Right.
Have it. Like I'm like, take everything I've ever built. And then if you want to modify it, of course, like please go make it your own.
Yeah.
Because you can't be a weirdo Care Bear, exactly Jen Broxterman, which is
like,
okay.
People would never buy anything from me if I wore this, right?
Right.
Like that's not my vibe.
Right.
Right. And you just have to understand that. Because like, what's the principle? What's the strategy? What's the mechanics behind
and
this?
And then how does that fit
and the
me?
why? And then how does that fit me? Which is like, that'd be like, like, do you like spandex? I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, not to go out to dinner, but like, I'm wearing compression shorts right now. Like, that's like, those contextualize the question. So I think that's the stuff that I want people to really start to nerd out on, and because I'm
obsessed with the client journey, like obsessed.
More people should be. So you already know this, but like that is Marcus's thing. Marcus is a client journey savant.
Love it.
And he's constantly revising it and constantly hammering us on like how we should improve delivery with everybody that we interact with, because we fall short a lot, and it's not
like Kaizen, that 1% improvement.
It's like not for lack of trying.
Becomes more than 1% over time.
But it is something that we constantly talk about, which is like somebody comes through and they're like, boom, and I'm like, we got to fix that. Like they're like, even a smidge or tone of unhappiness or dissatisfaction, I'm like, all right, like we got to fix that. And like, I might not be able to fix it right now, but it's going in the hopper for fix this later.
Love it.
And I think
that's what makes businesses great. That's what makes coaches world class.
Right.
It's that eye for detail of.
That's why we call it the ideal class experience evaluation. Because that whole process and how we evaluate coaches is designed not through the lens of me, the expert, through the lens of the client experiencing the thing.
Well, and I'm so grateful for cancer, because I was doing
That's
that.
a weird statement.
I know. It really, like I, again, would never wish it, but I had to write out my systems and give it to someone else. Like if I didn't go through what I had to go through medically, those systems are in my brain. I know how to functionally execute them with the client. The reviews were amazing. The client's experience was amazing. Everyone's like, Jen, you're so booked up. How do I get more of you? Like I literally felt like people were grabbing at me in the best possible way, because they just wanted to come in and get coached, and they liked the energy and they liked the results. And I was like, am I the secret sauce? And I was like, well, I am a part of the secret sauce, but this is a recipe. I can actually write down how I logically got to these factors, and then I'm going to teach you how to make the same cake.
Right. The secret sauce is like it's the additional flavor, right? So like if they're like, hey, that's a charismatic founder or charismatic, so that's how I would describe you as a charismatic founder, right? Meaning like you're probably not going to replicate that specific person, but I could still make the same recipe. It'll just have a slightly different flavor. Right. It's like a little bit more salt, a little bit less salt, like a little bit less cumin, like whatever it is.
Right.
That's the difference, right? When you're thinking about you and your role and place in the gym, it's not that what you do can't be replicated.
Right.
What you do can't be replicated. You as a person cannot be replicated, right? That's the flavor. It's a little sprinkle here, a little sprinkle there. But that doesn't mean that you can't bring in other ingredients that are just as effective.
And it makes a delicious recipe as well.
But it still has, the core ingredients. It's got the vegetables, it's got the protein, it's got these things, and it's just like
I love this nutrition
right.
metaphor.
And then you get into the like what kind of flavor do we want this to have? Like, is it a
Southwest chicken?
Right. Is it a Cajun flavor? Like what it is? And I'm like, that's
the coach.
That's the coach.
Yeah.
But everything behind that can absolutely and should be, to the best of your ability, tried to be something that you can replicate.
Right.
And it's when we teach gym owners and coaches to do that, everything improves.
Well, it's truly almost like the L1 where you're like, this is a system that works. And then the coach is going to just bring their coaching personality to that ideal class.
Yeah, and then it's like knowing what, we did a podcast with Kristen Bowen yesterday, like, and that's the difference between like, what are the directives, and then understanding the stylistic factors within the gym, right? But like they all have the same mechanics, right? There's this, like the nuts and bolts, like there's a floor space, there's a coach, there's a schedule, there's a intake process, there's a sales flow, there's all these things.
That's the system.
That's how you do it. But then the stylistic is just like
the flavor.
What's on the walls, the music tone, the jokes the coaches make, like what they wear, like that's the stylistic stuff that you can make super unique to you.
Right.
But behind that, the mechanics are the same.
Right.
Like we all look different when we show up, but if you just stripped all this away, it's bones, right? Same bones, femur, rib cage, all that. And you're like, if you just showed everybody that, and like they all look identical.
Exactly.
Right. But then you put everything else on top of you, like, oh, that's a totally different person. Like they're from wherever, like whatever. So, and I think that understanding that, and then getting to the root of that, whether it's a nutrition program or whether I'm trying to, reinvent myself as a CrossFit box owner, it's just like, how do I create the best structure possible? Then how do I spice it up?
And remember, success leaves clues. So that means like connecting with Affiliate U and being like, they've got great systems that are going to go from a struggling gym to a successful gym. It's okay to also pay to learn systems from people that have figured it out and gone before you.
I would argue.
And then again, add your own flavor.
There's a lot of free stuff out there, and that's I recommend everybody start there. Like a lot of coaches that I ended up hiring, I did the same thing. I stalked them. I got a lot of free information. I was like, it's time. I'm going to pay you whatever the price tag is, right? And some of it I was cool with, and some of it really hurt. And then, but I'm like, but at the end of the day, like
you learn something.
You're going to have to make that investment. And if you as a gym owner, whether you're hiring somebody to coach you in nutrition, you're going to have fears about making that leap, about like hiring somebody.
Yeah.
And here's what I would recommend everybody do. That money is like, here's how you get the return. The return is by you trusting yourself. So first couple times I did it, I didn't recognize that. And then I was just like, oh, it doesn't matter what I pay this person. I'm betting on me. I'm going to extract whatever information is required out of this individual or this group of people to get my money back.
Yeah.
That is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That's fucking happening, right? And I think if you look at it that way, which is like, do you trust yourself to do this?
Right.
And this is when you're just like, hey, I might not be ready to make that leap, right? Like you might not be ready to get a business mentor, but you might be ready to hire a nutrition coach, or you might be ready to hire, a programming specialist to come in and revamp everything you do. Whatever it is, right? You attack that one, but you should be fully confident. Be like, I'm confident that I will take information and I will implement it and I will get the return. And that's what I fundamentally misunderstood about hiring a coach. That is not their responsibility. Their responsibility is not to get me ROI. That's my responsibility. Their responsibility is to pull back the curtain, to show me where my blind spots are and let me know you're moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You need to make a 5-degree
adjustment,
a course adjustment in order to go in the right direction. But that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? They're to come in and like show me all the things that I don't know. And I'm like, oh God, I didn't even know that was a thing. Right? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, got it. Cool. Marching forward. And if you change that, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what the price tag is. And this is not me pitching Affiliate U. Like, I don't care if you do it. But you should be willing to invest in yourself in that scenario. And that takes a certain amount of belief. So start small, start where you can. And then,
might even just be a business book, like a $15 business book.
Or an online course or a webinar, something like that. But like, trust it, and then don't just be like, oh well, it didn't do anything for me. I'm like,
did
no,
you take action?
No, you didn't do anything for you. Right. That's a you thing. Right. It's not that, because I buy the worst webinar of all time. It doesn't matter. I guarantee you, there's at least 1% of information in there that you could extract. Be like, I guess I can make that worth $500. I don't know how, but I'm going to try. Right. I will somehow extract $500 out of this really terribly put together course for that one singular piece of information to get what I need out of it. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
But I think if you fundamentally change how you view
your belief system,
your belief system on that, it changes everything. Because now you're like, it's kind of an extreme ownership thing.
Yeah.
It's on me.
Right.
They're not going to come into my gym and fix my stuff. They can tell me to move it and do all this other stuff and change the process. But I'm like, but you have to do that and you have to own it. And if you do that, you could do anything you want.
You're unstoppable.
Yeah, you can do anything you want. My brain hurts.
This has been
a lot.
a fun conversation.
This has been a lot.
Like an intense conversation. There's some tragedy in the conversation.
It hasn't lacked intensity or tragedy.
There's some weirdness.
You're wearing
There's
Care
some
Bear
joy.
outfit. Yeah, you're wearing Care. So where can people find more about you? Like what do you got going on?
So probably the best place is to start by landing on the website. There's a lot of good free information there, which is
what?
prospernc.com, which stands for Prosper Nutrition Coaching. Email matches that, info@prospernc.com.
And just for clarification, this is B2B. This is
B2B.
This is coach coaching.
Yes. So it's for affiliate owners, CrossFit boxes, functional fitness gyms that know nutrition is important, but haven't figured out the system of how to get there.
Okay.
So essentially they're going to get 20 units of training via video. They're also going to get one-on-one calls with me, supporting them in getting their systems and their coaches on the page they need to be at. And then just that mentorship, that support, similar to business coaching, but this is in the nutrition coaching space.
Yeah, it's like the singular pillar of that.
Exactly.
Because we don't do that.
Right. So if a gym cannot figure out how to get nutrition off the ground and they're like, I think I've got a great coach or a couple good coaches in my ecosphere to do that.
Yep.
Send them to me.
Yep.
I will work with the affiliate owner and their coaches, and then they get my full system to then have that recipe and then add their own flavor to it. Yeah.
Full disclosure, we have no agreement. We get nothing from Jen. We're not going to. That's not the point. That's not why we bring people on the show.
I think Britt's going to go through it.
We were trying to do it earlier, and then we both decided we had put too many things in motion.
Yeah.
And kudos to you as a coach. You're like, totally get it. Do it when you're ready. And I was like, I like you.
Because that's what is best for you. Like
Right.
if I'm being client-centered, even in a B2B business, it's not to like hard sell you. It's when the time is right. I'm there to support her when her focus can be 100% all in.
Right. So
Long game.
what else? Where else can I find you? So nutrition. Prosper
Instagram, prosper_NC. But yeah, send me an email, info@prospernc. Website, you'll find me.
Anything cool coming up
Well,
other than being on this podcast?
yeah, I'm going to be speaking in Sweden in a few months, so that's pretty dope. I've never been to Sweden. Coaches Congress over on the European side.
Yeah, cool.
And then we're doing, I want to say it's like April.
Okay.
April, May.
What's the that's just CrossFit gyms, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Personally, I love Luke Combs, so I stocked tickets and I'm flying to British Columbia, and I bought a whole bunch of tickets for my best friend and her boyfriend, and I was like, can I just surprise you? I bought us all concert tickets, and I'm coming to BC just to hang out.
Sweet.
Because, like, why not live life?
Right.
And we're doing a big launch in the spring for the next cohort for Prosper students to come in.
Okay.
So right now things are closed because, again, I'm like really focused on the students I took in the winter cohort.
Can you give somebody just a quick, what's that look like? How's a cohort work? How long does it take?
Yeah, so the program is self-paced. You get a full year of access to the material, but realistically, I get gyms through in 1 to 3 months.
Okay.
So it's about 18 hours in total of video learning. So it's meant to give you a lot of in-depth skills.
It's a hefty lift.
Yeah, it is. But I want to make sure you're well prepared. This isn't just a like, hey, 2 hours and like throw you literally to the wolves.
Right.
This wolf is gonna
Not the hypothetical wolves that she was referring to,
Yeah.
like actual wolves.
And then we space out the mentoring 2 to 3 weeks apart. So we work on some issues. We send you home with some homework. You have to take accountability and action. We come back. We see how that homework is going, and then we work on the next piece of the puzzle of piecing together a really successful nutrition program.
Cool.
So yeah, I kind of work in a small cohort model, but all the interaction with each gym is individual to that gym. So we get to talk about that gym's coach, their coaches on the call, that gym's like plan and issues, and do they want workplace wellness? Do they not? Like, what is that going to look like? And I'm all about quality over quantity. I'm playing the long game. So eventually there'll be some changes, so this will scale a little bit, to a larger audience. But right now I want to make sure every CrossFit gym that comes through feels unbelievable when they graduate from the certification, and really well set up with their coaches to deliver an amazing service to their audience.
Cool.
So yeah, I've really seen it transform the bottom line for the gyms I'm working with, and their coaches are a lot happier. It's nice to fill those weird hours in the middle of the day where they're not really coaching on the floor. So quality of life for coaches is better. I was going to say that you prosper on 3 levels, right? Your members are going to prosper in their results and happiness. Your coaches are going to prosper financially and job satisfaction. The business is going to prosper.
Cool.
So yeah, profitability and revenue.
Well, thank you. I think this is officially the longest podcast we've ever done, Nate.
Oh,
but
goodness.
I genuinely have enjoyed this conversation. You're doing great things. If you guys want to reach out to Jen to find out more,
Thank you.
should definitely do that. You are a rad person. You're doing cool stuff. Fuck cancer. Get yourself a Care Bear outfit.
Why not?
And talk to your inner wolves, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.